Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We come from the world of executive development. I particularly call myself as a pracademic, where I'm a practitioner and an academic working with a few universities in the UK. But this research that I'm about to present, it has two parts. There's a practical aspect to it, and then there's an academic aspect to it. And my colleague, Dr. Saeed, sitting over there, he'll be joining me towards the end of the presentation, sharing with you a bit more insights into the academic aspects of this research. This is a qualitative piece of research that we are about to present, and it's exploratory in nature. We have dealt with executives and seen how leadership development behaves or should behave in the world of generative AI. I read a quotation from one of the ex-executives from Google, and in his book he says that 1 year worth of change today would be reflected just in 11 days by 2050. That is the world that we are living in. We classify it as VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And the way leadership is done currently would not keep pace the way the environment is changing. So we got to do something different in order to match the pace, otherwise we'll be left behind. Now, how do we look at that? This was the big question, and the industry that I'm talking about is sitting at $336 billion. Research again confirms, and stats show, that a lot of these leadership programs, they fail. And that was an interesting aspect when we started studying this matter, that why is it that organizations end up spending so much money, time, and effort, and yet they do not get the desired results? There are different aspects to it. One of that is change. The way the world is changing, things have to change with it. But another aspect is what you're seeing on your screens. We call it skills versus capabilities. How do I describe skills versus capabilities? The last time, I have been driving for 20 years, and I work for a British university in Dubai, and I've been going there for almost a year. And I take an Uber from my home to the university, which is about 14 minutes away. The last time I was there, it was like 2 weeks back, and for the first time in a 1-year duration, I decided to drive to the university. It took me 1 hour to come back from the same point where I started. So I clearly have the skills to drive because I've doing that for the past 20 years, but I don't have the capability to drive in Dubai, where the signs are in Arabic. I don't know what they mean. And Google keeps pushing me in the wrong direction. And that dawned on me that there is a huge difference. You may have the skills, but not the capabilities. And this is the dilemma at the very senior executive level when you're dealing with CEOs and board members. They truly bring in the skills, but not necessarily the capabilities. Capabilities are a combination of skills put together and contextualized. Last night, driving back from here to the hotel, I was listening to the debate on presidential elections, and the persons talking, they were talking about the current president's, not the skills, but his capabilities. Is he capable to continue the presidency? So there's a huge difference between skills and capabilities. Unfortunately, what we have observed is that people focus a lot on skills. Programs that are designed are focused a lot on skills and not so much on capabilities. Another aspect that, as we started progressing with this idea, that got in the limelight was preparing for a challenge versus preparing for the challenge. And there is a difference. How do we go about and support a team of executives who are responsible for conducting the World Cup for football? It's a very specific challenge, and you need very specific skill sets and capabilities in order to run such an event. But this distinction is a huge gap. So we believe that leadership theory is not invalid, but there are certain gaps, and we want to push it to the next level as part of this research that we are sharing with you. In organization, based on my more than a decade's experience in the world of executive education and going through various RFPs, I have felt that most of those organizations identify within their RFP approach the individual skills and competencies that are required for the organization, but they fail to recognize the organizational capabilities. When you put all those skills and competencies together, how would you achieve them? So for example, you may send someone on a communication skills course. Does not mean that the person would come back and become a very good sales agent, because then you need emotional intelligence, you need teamwork, and all those things have not been identified, and you are not accumulating them. So that became the big gap where we started getting increasingly interested. And the way we have continued to use the artificial intelligence within our setup is trying to reach that peak where we have contextualized the experience and made it much more closer to the reality so that people can feel it and they can observe it, and then you develop the behaviors as you are taking them along that journey. A lot is being done on the individual skills, which is the blue part that you are seeing, but very less is being done to achieve that peak, which is very contextualized in this reference. I'll give you a few examples in this regard from the industries that we have been working with. One of the industries, I'm an ex-military officer, and one of the industries that we work with is the military industry. Within military industry, we often end up using this framework called the OODA loops. It comes from United States Air Force by John Boyd, and it's actually applied in the business world as well. What happens with an OODA loop is that you observe, you orient yourself, you decide, and you act. And the faster you go about that cycle, the better advantage you'll have on the opponent, to the level that you'll even be able to get into the opponent's OODA loop if you're more agile with this whole cycle. And for us, we started understanding how we can use AI to do things better. What you are seeing over there is something that's already existing, but we also know that AI can help us do better things. So how do we then simulate, understand, predict, and advise? Based on the OODA loop, we created the super loop, which helps us take every aspect to the next level and push things. We are doing this in collaboration with one of our partner organizations, and this artificial intelligence is currently applied. It is being used by NATO forces, by Royal Navy, by the Canadian Navy, and it's working out really well. It's helping officers move from more tactical and operational tasks to more strategic tasks. So it's doing all the groundwork, number crunching for you, and helping you strategize and make better decisions as you take things forward. Few other examples where we are continuing to experiment this kind of philosophy is with Entertainment Academy in Saudi Arabia, where Saudi is going to be hosting the next World Cup football by 2034. So how do you go about and prepare the teams for crowd management? There's an annual event that they do, which is the annual pilgrimage. It's 2 million people coming into the country. How do you then use contextualized development of the executives, where you are thrown with a massive scale of pilgrims who speak different languages, and they're coming from various parts of the world, where there is no other event which can replicate that. So those specific narrow developments are things that we are focusing with our artificial intelligence technology. These are some of the toys that we are using as part of delivering our programs, and reflecting back on what Kareem was saying yesterday. We believe in the digital world, it's not any longer the game of digital, it's the game of phygital, where you combine physical experiences with digital technologies. The next wave, the next generation is going to be much more digital because technology is out there to augment human capability. We are using virtual reality, we are using artificial intelligence, and several other things that you can see over here on the screen. At this point in time, I would like to invite my colleague, Said, to share a bit more academic aspects of this research that I have just shared with you, because I have shared the more practical side of this. Said,